Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you're all doing great. Now, it's actually Boxing Day right now, but by the time this video comes out, it'll be New Year's or past New Year's. So Happy New Year. As you can see, we've had a great dump of snow. I've been to several places not too far from where I live, and I'm having a really hard time because as beautiful as the snow looks, it is quite busy. And of course it is melting a little bit, so you have all these patches of pure white snow and then dark areas. I went up to a place called Notch Hill, which is not far from the Nanoose. I've done videos up there before. It was okay, but I had a really hard time. And then this morning I went down to Triple Falls, which is not far from here. And there's so much water there that it just didn't look that great. So now I've come to Englishman River Falls, and I'm hopeful that I'm able to get some shots here. Looking at the waterfall and some of the smaller scenes within the larger scene, I think I'm going to be able to get some pretty decent shots. So let's go and see what we can find. All right, that's really quite spectacular, actually. There's what I like about this area is that there's quite a bit of ice around, so that adds a little bit to the photographs. Now, the trees in the background are still very busy, but I love these boulders just covered in snow. And then we've got the waterfall, and then every now and then you get these bits of ice kind of hanging onto the rock. So it's really quite lovely. So rather than try to take the whole scene in, I'm just going to concentrate on smaller areas, I think. Now, unfortunately, in my rush this morning, I forgot my filters. And because of the snow and it's quite bright out today, the lowest shutter speed I can get at f16 ISO 100 is a 13th of a second. Would be nice to get a bit slower. So what I'm going to have to do is take multiple images and then I'll combine them in Photoshop to get that slow shutter speed look. So what I'm concentrating on right now is just these lovely boulders in the foreground and a bit of the waterfall in the background. The hardest part is trying to somewhat pre-visualize what you want to photograph before you walk over there. Otherwise, you might end up ruining a composition because you've put footprints all through the snow. I really love these rocks behind me too, with the snow on them. They're just beautiful. Right, I'm going to take this shot here, and then I'll try and find some shots around just behind me here as well. Alright, so here's the raw file, and I have done a little bit of work on this. I've opened up the shadows just a little bit and just evened out the exposure on all 5 of these exposures here. Now, the shutter speed itself isn't too bad actually, but just for educational purposes I'll show you how to smooth out the water just a little bit more, just as if you were using an ND filter. So we're in Lightroom right now, and you're going to have to do this process in Photoshop. So I'm just going to grab all of these files here, and right click on them and go to edit in and open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, I've opened up the images, as you can see, as layers on the right side here. Now, you could probably get away with just 3 images, but I've opened up 5 images just to kind of show you what's going on here. Now, the very first thing you need to do is align all of these layers, because if I click on these viewing eyes here, you can see that as we go along, the composition has actually shifted a little bit, probably from water movement on the tripod. So I'm just going to select all of those layers, and then we'll go up to Edit, and you'll see here Auto Align Layers. Just click it on Auto and OK, and that'll take a little bit of time, but not too long, hopefully. Right, all of the layers are aligned, and as you can see, there's been a little bit of shifting going on. But if we click on these little eyes again, you can see that all the layers have lined up really nicely. There's no movement in the rocks. Okay, what we're going to do here, there's a number of ways you can do this, but I'll just show you the quick and dirty way of doing this. All you have to do is just change the opacity of each layer. So the first layer, I'm just going to go down to roughly 10%, and the second layer, perhaps 20%, and then the third layer, we're just changing the opacity. Maybe let's go with 40%, and the very last layer, let's go with 53%. And you can see what that's done is, if we zoom in on the rocks, because they're all lined up, the details or the sharp details haven't changed, but the water details have changed. So what's kind of neat about this technique is that if you wanted to combine, say, one photograph with water flow that's taken at a fast shutter speed and it has lots of detail, you could combine that with another shot that's taken with a slower shutter speed, so that you have both details in the water and also movement. It really depends on personal choice, but that's all you have to do, and it kind of gives the same effect. This shutter speed here, again, originally it was a 13th of a second, and this looks more like it might be perhaps at, I don't know, maybe a 1/5 of a second or half a second. And as I said, you can adjust that. So we could change the opacity of the top one to reflect more details, or if you want to give it less details, less opacity, and so on. This looks really good right now. What I really love about it is the canyon wall on the inside has all this ice coating it. So it looks really cold and doesn't look like a place you'd want to hang out. But what I also really love is the small cascade coming through the notch in the rocks there. So you've got the main cascade here going in front of us, and then you have another one coming in the background coming towards us. So you've got one coming across and then forward, and then they twist around and go down the canyon. I really love the ice on the boulders as well. Now for this one, I've got the shutter speed down to 1/8 of a second, and it actually looks pretty good, but I'll take multiple images just in case I want to sandwich a couple together to kind of slow it down a little bit more. Yeah, it looks really good. I like this shot. I've taken shots from this angle before. It usually looks really good when the weather's quite miserable, when you have mist in the background, but it's quite cold and clear today. So I'm just concentrating on this one section and not looking too far down the canyon because it looks a bit messy down there. Wow, this is kind of cool. So the snow is melting and of course it's dripping, forming these icicles. But I really love this icicle here, just hanging by, looks like a thread, and there's a maple leaf suspended in there. I'm not sure how it got in there, but so the whole thing is kind of moving around a little bit. So I'm trying to take a expansive view of all the icicles with that kind of as the center of the interest, but it is moving a little bit. So I've cranked up the ISO to 800 and got a shallow depth of field for the leaf, and so I'm able to stop the motion. And then I've taken some of the really slow shutter speed because I love this water dripping down. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it in the final image, but it'd be nice if you got these streaks of water coming down. So I've used ISO 100 f16 at about 3 or 4 seconds, and then I'll just combine the two. That's kind of neat. Once again, thank you ever so much for watching this week's installment. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give me the old thumbs up. Now then, before I forget, I have a few 2022 calendars still available. They have gone on sale for £10 each, so grab one while you can. Also, Quiet Light, the 3rd edition, I still have books for sale over at kozubooks.com. And lastly, my zine, Aspen, I still have, I believe, 20 or 30 copies available. So that's up for grabs also over at kozubooks.com. All right, folks, thanks ever so much for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. And until next week, bye-bye.